Hey, guys, my name is Paula Sun, but you can call me the Change Navigator. I mean, that's why you clicked on the podcast because of the name, right? All right, cool. I want to begin by saying welcome to my new listeners and welcome back to the Faithful Navigators. We are here in season 3, and all season long, we are talking about the pivot. And before we go any further, let me put in this little shameless plug. I have a new ebook that is available on Amazon Kindle. The name of the book is called Pivot: 8 Keys to Reinventing Your Now. So go ahead on over to Amazon Kindle and pick that up. And I promise you, it will help you out tremendously. Well, today we have a very, very special guest. I've been trying to get this lady on my podcast for a while. She's such a busy lady. So, I was patient and understanding and, you know, uh, I had to go with her schedule, and that's fine with me because I'm super flexible. But I am so happy to have Edwina Brown as a guest on my podcast today. Let me tell you all a little bit about her. First of all, her bio is extensive. It is very impressive. And I actually know the person that this bio is about. So I'm going to read it and then we'll get her to talking. So Edwina is a native of Lockhart, Texas, which is a small town outside of Austin. She played multiple sports all through high school, but began to gravitate towards basketball and went on to receive an athletic scholarship to the University of Texas at Austin. By her junior year, she had earned the title of All American, and by her senior year, she was tabbed as the best female basketball player in the country and presented the Margaret Wade Trophy, the Heisman Trophy of women's basketball. She currently holds several records at UT and remains the only player in school history to lead her team in points, rebounds, assists, and steals in the same year, which is a feat she did twice, her junior and senior year. So guess what? Of course, her professional career included the WNBA. She was in 2000. She was drafted third overall by the Detroit Shock. She spent time playing for the Phoenix Mercury and the Houston Comets. Her career did not stop there, but she went on to play international, playing in Austria, Lebanon, Israel, France, and Spain. She decided to hang up her shoes after an 11-year professional basketball career, and then she pivoted into coaching. All right. So she started her coaching career at her alma mater. And then she was fortunate to land a job on staff for Hall of Famer Gail Gostenkors, then the head coach at UT. She's also coached at New Mexico, TCU, and SMU. She was known for being one of the best recruiters in the country. But she made an abrupt departure in 2017 and decided to step away from the game to concentrate on family and to seek other business opportunities. And guess what? She did another pivot. Of course, she did, right? So she has her own apparel company, which focuses on inspiration and empowerment through scriptural slogans. There are currently 5 merchandise collections that can all be found on her website at edwinabrown.com. But guess what? She did another pivot, right? I mean, that's what we're talking about, and that's why I have her on here. She did another pivot. So now she is the co-owner of Blowing Smoke Cigar Lounge, located in the DFW area. It has been open since 2018. Her lounge has been featured in Cigar Aficionado and Premier Cigar Association magazines, highlighting various fast climbing lounges across the country. Okay, I'm going to stop here because this is pretty awesome, guys. And so I read all of that, right? So let her tell you all a little bit of something about herself that maybe I didn't mention.
Oh wow. That's me. Sometimes I was like, that is actually me. Um, I guess something that I don't really put in my bio. Just I think in order to understand where we are now, and even where we're going, you have to know where you came from. And I think that that's what has kept me grounded through all of the navigation, right? The pivots in life. I'm a small town girl, as you mentioned, from Lockhart, known as the barbecue capital of Texas.
Oh,
And, I come from humble beginnings, single parent household. My grandmother picked up the slack of a absentee father. And it was, I think that that's really what created just the resilience, to make all of these changes, to make all of these turns.
Mhm.
And I think that that upbringing is what set me up for success. I didn't know it would be necessary. I think at that time, we're like, why do we have to struggle? Why don't I have food in the refrigerator? Why does this kid have these shoes and this car and all of these things? And I didn't grow up that way. I
Mhm.
grew up watching others. I grew up being not really the outsider. I think sport really brought me in to be like the popular kid just because I was talented or good or gifted at a
Mhm.
particular sport. But I was that kid that struggled. I was
Mhm.
that kid that struggled. So I think that those humble beginnings, when you talked about something that's not in my bio,
Mhm.
is, you might see all of this. Oh, this, and she does this. Oh, and by the way, this. But no, it's been a rough journey.
Mhm. I like that, humble beginnings. And I'm sure that is a story more common than we think it is because, social media has caused us to focus on all the good. It has caused us, to put our best pictures up, our best accomplishments up. But those humble beginnings, I believe, contribute to how we go after the success that we have achieved now.
Right.
So I want you to tell us a little bit about your professional career and your background.
Okay. Speaking basketball wise or
Uh,
entrepreneurship.
we can go with basketball and then to your business side.
Okay. Okay. So, had the opportunity to play professionally, and I don't want to just brush it under the rug, but just kind of give an explanation and understanding, like painting a picture. At that time, I went to college 96 to 2000, right? The WNBA was formed in 97, right? So whenever I was able to be awarded a college scholarship, at that time it was just, hey, this is a blessing because it takes pressure off of family to where you don't have to pay for school, a higher education, but yet you can earn a degree.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, that was big
Mm-hmm.
because there was no one in my family. I didn't have an example. There was no one in my family that went to college and graduated,
Mm-hmm.
right? I had a couple. My sister started, and then she was unable after second or third year to pay for school. Then she started, 9 to 5 corporate America. I think I had a distant uncle, same thing. So I didn't really have that example of what this is a degree, and this is how a degree can set you apart,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it was something that I wanted to obtain. I
Okay.
wanted to be the first, and then play sport at the same time. So going to the University of Texas sophomore year, WNBA, all of a sudden it's like, ooh, 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 now we have a chance to where we can continue playing basketball in
Mm-hmm.
in our country,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of the older players at the time, they went abroad because that's all that we had.
Right.
So, I freshman year, I was average at best, average at best.
Okay.
So WNBA comes about and it's like, okay, that's a pipe dream. That is a pipe dream. Never ever. Sophomore year comes around, I get better. Junior year, get better. Senior year becomes a real reality.
Mm-hmm.
And just having the opportunity to be drafted. In my draft year, there was a league before the WNBA called the ABL.
Okay.
And yeah, so there was an ABL league, which came about before the WNBA, and there was maybe, I want to say 10 teams or so or something like that. And so my draft year was the last of those ABL players that were being drafted as well. So
Mm-hmm.
the drafts like in 97, 98, 99 were a lot of ABL players and a lot of players that were overseas.
Gotcha.
And then I come along, and my draft year was the last year of the ABL players. So they chose two players. Number one and number two pick were ABL players. Well,
Mm-hmm.
let me back up. One was a foreigner from Czechoslovakia or something. The second was ABL player, and then I was the first college player taken.
Oh.
So third pick.
Wow.
So yeah, that's a little known fact.
So you went from being
But
average.
no, that seems like a
You went from being average as a freshman to being the number one college player drafted in the WNBA. You're so humble. You just make it seem like
That's
Yeah, this,
basically what
yeah.
that's basically no, because it's just like that's a real true story.
Hmm.
I mean, it's real, and I if I could put numbers on it, my freshman year I averaged 6 points,
Mm,
and I started half of the games. We played 30 games. I started 15, and I'm talking about it might be you don't start for three, then you start for three. So it was real up and down.
hmm.
And I was known as the defensive player. I
Right.
went in, my job was to guard the best player on the team. Granted, if they were a guard,
Hmm.
and that was really my role. So I went from what you call a role player, maybe even like a utility player, somebody that specializes in something, which mine was defense,
Hmm.
to being very versatile. And when I tell you that each year it was like, I mean, I grew. Like, I'm not talking about height.
Hmm.
My game grew and developed. So, a lot of those things, that transition from year to year to year and the growth are the same things that I feel like I'm going through as an entrepreneur, right? The parallels are almost identical.
Hmm.
It's almost identical, being, entrepreneur and a professional, in my career, and having to understand, hey, year one, I'm not going to see the success that I would like to see.
Hmm.
But if I make those short-term goals for this particular year, let's break that thing down. Just the same thing as you have when you're playing sport. Let's shoot 500 shots or make 500 shots this day, 500, and that stuff compounds. So that when you get in the game, it's natural, it's normal. So same thing here. Same thing here. Coming in out of 2 years, going into year three, with the Cigar Lounge, and same actually with the apparel, launched pretty much at the same time. So there's a lot of parallels to it.
Okay. So, in this, you just told us your pivot from basketball to being a business owner. Um, Tell us a little bit about being a co-owner of a cigar lounge, a woman's voice, and your position in this business.
Wow. That question is so loaded. It's loaded, it's layered. It's a very good question. And it's a real thing. Um, I am a female in a male dominated industry.
Hmm.
I was a female athlete in a male dominated sport,
Hmm.
parallel,
Right.
right? So some of the things that I learned in sport, I use for this.
Okay.
And I'm not uncomfortable, right? A lot of people would see that and be like, "Ooh, how do you do that?" Well, the same way I've done everything.
Hmm.
I've been doing this all my life. I've been doing this all my life. I've been seeing this resistance, right? You walk in, someone walks in, a customer walks in, they start talking cigars, and they're like, "Oh, so who owns the place?" Or where is boss man?
Hmm.
Or is the owner in today? Is he in today? Just automatic reaction is he,
Right.
right? It's male.
Hmm.
And so me, being who I am, I'd be like, no, no he. There's not a he, not him.
Right.
Well, I mean, you actually talking to her.
Hmm.
So you get a little bit of resistance. You get a little bit of resistance in that. Some men don't feel like, as a female, I should know what I'm talking about when it comes to cigars.
Okay.
Um, if I'm in the room with other lounge owners, and maybe there's a question that's posed, it's always directed towards the male, right? The female is to be seen and not to be heard,
Hmm.
quote unquote. I
Hmm.
get that. I
Hmm.
still get all of that.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely. I get that. So I think that sport, has prepared me to handle such a task as this. And
Hmm.
I see it as a challenge, right? I'm an athlete by heart,
Hmm.
and I need a challenge.
Hmm.
I thrive on a challenge. And if I don't have a challenge, then things seem redundant, right? Then I start to get bored, and
Hmm.
that's when you lose me. So for me, it's an everyday challenge alongside of just building your own company. That's a challenge in itself.
Hmm.
But that female tab, that's another hurdle. That's another hurdle.
Wow. Um, yeah. So talking about being a female and a basketball player, and some of our, and you even being a coach, a top recruiter, and some of our skills are transferable, or like you say, parallel
Yeah.
in different industries. What skills have you been able uh, to use from being a player or coach to being a cigar lounge owner?
Mm. I often tell people that running a cigar lounge, and probably any business, right? Any business where you actually have staff, where there are people that rely on you or answer to you. It's much like head coaching,
Okay.
right? It's much like you are a head coach of a team.
Okay.
Now, I was never a head coach.
Hmm.
I've had, high titled positions and being recruiting coordinator, which means my responsibility is to make sure the entire staff is on the same page. I would tell them who to call, when to call, who to email, what to write, So this is much like head coaching, where you
Hmm.
have your staff and you have support staff. Um, it's much the same. So in the cigar lounge, I have staff. Number
Hmm.
one, I have a partner,
Hmm.
right? So he and I, if you're looking at a hierarchy, if you want to do that, would be same level, right? But
Hmm.
at the same time, my partner is not a cigar guy,
Got
right? He's more, um, the thing that he brings to the table and his supercharged assets are business,
okay.
right? The business side of it. Not that I am lacking in that, but these are his responsibilities,
Okay.
right? Which allows me to free up some time so I don't have to focus on that.
Hmm.
So I also handle our staff,
Okay.
right? So the communication, the schedule, the scheduling, the responsibilities, job description, that's the same as what a head coach does when they hire or interview. Same
Hmm.
thing.
Hmm.
You go in with your interview questions, you get a feel for, prospect, so to speak, and tell them about the job. This is what we could pay you. Same thing a head coach does. And if
Okay.
the numbers don't match, then guess what? I would love to hire you, but I can't afford to hire you.
Hmm.
Same thing as what a head coach does. We
Hmm.
want this guy or girl, but we need to find some money, right, before we can hire this coach. We need
Hmm.
to find money, investor, before I can hire, bring another person on board,
Hmm.
or even open accounts to purchase these particular cigars.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Gotcha.
And then you have, let's say, a calendar. Let's say, as a basketball coach team, you have your schedule,
Hmm.
right? So let's say you have these 30 games, you put them on, okay, this date works with this team. No, this date doesn't work. Let's change the date. It's the same thing with running events. When are we going to bring this cigar company in to
Hmm.
do a cut and light? Well, this particular young lady or man called, they want to do their birthday party on this date. It doesn't work. That does work. How about this date? Same thing. That's scheduling,
Gotcha. Okay.
right?
Right.
Recruiting, right? That's the lifeblood of any sport is recruiting,
Hmm.
and recruiting great athletes.
Right.
Okay. How do I recruit these patrons to come to my lounge versus a lounge that's 3 miles down the street?
Hmm.
What am I doing differently at my lounge? What am I doing differently at this university
Hmm.
versus the university that's on the other side of town? Right?
Makes sense.
Parallel,
Yes. Yes.
transfer.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. That's pretty good. So, did you ever see yourself in this role? Was this something that you envisioned, when you stepped away from coaching? How did this come about?
No, never, never. I started to get involved with cigars in 2017. Okay, so what happened was when I stepped away from coaching, um, my goal or plan was to take a year, spend time with family, and do new things,
Okay.
right? Get outside of my comfort zone, right? The spend time with family thing is huge because a lot of people don't know when you're an athlete, and I played, into my 30s, that you're away from your family, right? I might be in this country for 8 months, this state for 3.5 months, and then home for 2 weeks.
Mm.
I have been home for as little as 4 days,
Wow.
right? In between seasons. So
Hmm.
I'm away from my family. And when I retired December of 2010, I jumped right into college coaching. I started January 2011 volunteering for the spring semester. And then right at the end of that, April, I would say, they offered me a position. And so I was right into college athletics. I started actually as a strength coach at the University of Texas. So I started work, which even though my career as a basketball player is work, but I started corporate America or college coaching um, immediately.
Hmm.
So with coaching, you have no time. It's as if you're playing.
Mm.
Actually, you have less time because there is no downtime. Your downtime is a peak time for recruiting,
Mm.
right? The downtime I'm calling out of season,
Hmm.
right? But then out of season is in season recruiting.
Gotcha.
So that's a year round,
Hmm.
right? And so depending on where, luckily, I was able to land a job at my alma mater, which from there I was New Mexico, TCU. I was away from family.
Hmm.
So that's why family was first. Is like I want to be able to spend time with them, do things, take family vacation,
Right.
and then just have fun, enjoy life, try something new. I think I went somewhere every month. I went somewhere, whether home or I flew somewhere every month, just to do something that I enjoyed, that I could look back on. And during that time, to get back to your question, during that time, I went to a cigar lounge. I met a friend that I played pickup with back in college, and he was like, "Hey, what you doing? Come out, hang out, type of thing." And I'm like, "Hey, yeah, let's try it, right? Let's try it." And so he invited me to a cigar lounge, and I walked in, and initially I was like, "The smoke, I can't do it."
Hmm.
And it wasn't so much, oh, I'm choking sitting in here. I was thinking about my hair. I was thinking about clothes.
Right.
This is the female side of it. That's
Hmm.
the hard part for us,
Hmm.
in addition to the profession. But and then the next week he invited me again, and I kept finding myself going back. And what I realized was the camaraderie, the conversation. You kind of felt like that was like a family. You started to have a network and a group of people that you hung out with every week,
Hmm.
and then you started having different business conversations, and that just opened up my antennas, all these different business conversations. So it started pulling me in. And sure enough, there was a conversation that took place about, helping someone that was struggling with the
Hmm.
cigar lounge. And there was an opportunity that I took. I jumped on it, and here I am.
Awesome. That's pretty dope. Now, last year, beginning of the pandemic, what, March 2020, when they shut everything down, right? They shut the entire country down.
Right.
And it presented so many challenges to business owners. And honestly, some did not survive the pandemic. How did you pivot during that time? And what are some creative things you incorporated to keep your business going?
Um, the pivot was definitely necessary, right? If you don't make the turn, then essentially you die, which means your business folds.
Mhm.
And so for us, we were actually closed for 7 weeks, right? And for a new company that's inside of, pretty much an infant,
Mhm.
we're younger than 2 years old. Um, that was supposed to be death, death for us.
Mhm.
But I think that with some of the government funding, that definitely assisted us to stay afloat
Mhm.
until we were able to to open the doors. The creative thing was we had to rely on curbside,
Mm-hmm.
right? So curbside, which means we need a device, a processing system that can be that we could transfer, that we could walk with,
Okay.
right? So basically a handheld as opposed to one that's on the counter,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it taught us to go mobile,
Gotcha.
right? It forced you into it. Like, think about this. Who knew about these Zooms before this? I mean, I didn't. I've never done a Zoom before.
Really?
No, maybe WebEx or something, but
Mm-hmm.
Zoom. I'm talking
Got
about Zoom. Where
Wow.
does it come from? Like all of a sudden. So it forced us to go mobile, which is
Okay.
a good thing, right? It's a good thing in that in our old lounge, and we are moving now, but in the old lounge, our register and our humidor are about 20 steps away, which
Mhm.
means there's a lot of foot traffic in between. So now, when during heavy days or events, we can have somebody at the register ringing somebody up, and then somebody mobile inside the humidor ringing somebody up,
Okay.
right? So it forced that. It also forced us to think about an online platform,
Okay.
right? E-commerce platform.
Mhm.
That was maybe a 3 to 5 year plan goal, but it forced us to create that now. And especially during the move, this
Mhm.
move, I'm thinking this is coronavirus pandemic 2021. Like
Oh.
it's tough because we're shut down.
Oh.
So this is something I never want to go through. Yeah, I never want to go through again.
Mhm.
To have that downtime, so that if we do have a downtime where we're making, where we're growing and we're transitioning to a new location that's bigger,
Mhm.
if the transition is not seamless, then I still want to have that online platform that is being created right now. So I would say those are the two things: being able to be mobile on site,
Mhm.
and then also having this online platform.
Okay. I see that you all added an event, and it seems to be like it's pretty popular. Tuesday nights, you all added karaoke. How has that been going?
So karaoke Tuesday is a thing.
Okay.
Who would have thought karaoke on a Tuesday would be a thing?
Mm-hmm.
So what happened was how it came about. Uh, Tuesdays were our lowest revenue nights
Okay.
or days. Okay, for some reason Tuesday, and I now know. I tried to go to another cigar lounge this Tuesday up north, and they're actually closed on Tuesdays.
Oh.
So it must be a thing, right? It
Uh,
must be a thing about Tuesday. So I'm like, okay, what are we gonna do? So I talked to Jacoby, who's my partner. I said, look, Tuesdays are killing us,
mhm.
right? Because we have our daily goals. I'm an athlete, right? There's daily goals, and we might slip one day, but then we make it up another day. I'm looking at numbers, but over a 30-day period, this is what it is. So when I started looking at with our processing system, you can actually see your Mondays, what they look like, the trends,
Mhm.
right? And so I'm analytical, geekish, and I'm looking at these days, and I'm like, Tuesdays are killing us.
Mhm.
And so with Jacoby, he kind of has a musical or he's in entertainment
Okay.
in terms of he does these DJing gigs, different places where he DJs, parties. He also does karaoke at different places. So he says, what about karaoke? Right? Because that's what he does.
Mhm.
And so I was like, I don't know. I don't know how that mixes with cigars.
Mhm.
I don't know if it would. And so it just so happened that last year, once we were able to get out, I was coaching the AAU team. And so our practices were Tuesday, Thursday. So he would have to work.
Mhm.
And so he was like, oh, I'm just going to pull it out one day and try it. So
Mhm.
he was there on the Tuesday and he pulled it out. I get back to my phone and he was like, they like it. Right. So I passed through that after I was done and people were there. The next Tuesday I passed through more people. The next Tuesday I'm like, whoa, this is a thing now. And it
Mhm.
just started out, hey, let's just try it. Let me start playing music. Let me bring out my karaoke machine. Let's see. And then word of mouth.
Mhm.
And so because it was COVID, we didn't advertise on social media or
Right.
anywhere because we didn't want people to think, oh, well, blowing smoke can care less about the pandemic. They're not safe. They're not complying. That wasn't it. So we didn't advertise. It was just a word of mouth thing,
Mhm.
especially during the months where we had to stay within a certain percentage
Yeah.
of capacity.
Mhm.
It was just a word of mouth. And then once they started opening up capacity, we really started pushing it in social media. And it is a real thing. I still have people, we have been closed since March 1st for this move.
Okay.
And I have people every Tuesday calling because our the house phone, I would say, right, the lounge phone
Mhm.
goes to my phone,
Mhm.
and they're calling asking about karaoke to this day.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
it's crazy.
I
It's
love
crazy.
it. So, I hear you saying that you all are moving. So, is there something you are working on now that we should be looking for in the future?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So we are moving. I have not told anyone besides, our circle, obviously my partner, investors, um, anyone dealing with the city, setting up permit. Those people have to know, right? Contractors. But outside of that, we haven't told anyone where we're going, where
Okay.
we're relocating to.
Mhm.
We have kept that confidential for a few different reasons.
Mhm.
But for us, the move was coming. I think perhaps maybe COVID sped it up.
Okay.
Again, like I said, a lot of things, that were 3 to 5 year goals or your 5 year, what do you call it? Where your 5 year plan, your 3 year plan, your 5 year plan, you have those things. Um, it might have been sped up because of COVID. And I think because people after COVID just wanted to get out. They
Mhm.
just want to get out. They feel like they were locked up. We've been
Right.
in jail.
Mhm.
It's like we want to get out, but to places that we feel safe. And
Okay.
so with that, you know, capacity wise, we had too many people.
Mhm.
It was too many, especially on Tuesday. And that's a Tuesday. We're
Right.
talking about middle of the week. You have to work tomorrow. Tuesday, there is just way too many people. And
Mhm.
then we start thinking about events, Friday, Saturdays. Once we have those, a lot of people. So we thought it was time to expand. So we're adding another 1,000 square feet. We were a little over 3,000. I think we were 3,100. So we're moving into 4,100.
Nice.
Yeah, what I can say is we will have a little space where we can have outside seating. It's not huge,
Mhm.
but there's an opportunity for us to have outside seating, which is good, especially going into the summer. People
Right.
want to enjoy the weather. People love sitting outside as well, enjoying conversation, smoking a cigar over coffee, whatever the case may be. So that's in the plan. We're probably still inside 60 days, out before we actually open the door.
Okay.
But that's coming. It's just a matter of contractors finishing up and then us doing our part with the interior decoration. That's where I come in.
Okay.
Uh, so that's in the works. Also my nonprofit,
Mhm.
um, establishing that last year and just really trying to open up accounts and just reach out to people and promote it to let people know that it's available. Offering scholarships is something that I want to be able to do in the next 1 to 3 years. I started with my hometown, reaching out and letting them know that I wanted to offer a scholarship. And it's been interesting because I haven't gotten a response.
Oh,
I have not, no, I have not gotten a response. And
wow.
it just makes me think about how many opportunities are there out there for our young people? Um, and maybe adults are dropping the ball on it,
Mm,
you know,
yeah.
the adults dropping the ball, kids obviously have to do their due diligence with submitting the essay or whatever the criteria are for the monies that are available, but are the adults dropping the ball? And on this one, they are.
Wow.
But just putting um, the nonprofit in the foundation in a position to help assist young people, because I was one of those kids that needed that assistance. I talked about that earlier, where I didn't have,
Mhm.
and I needed that assistance, and so I want to be able to offer that to somebody.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What is it? Pull somebody up the ladder? What is it?
Reach down and pull them up.
Yeah, reach down and pull them up. That's it.
Pull 'em up. Absolutely.
I love it. I love it. So if you guys haven't read my ebook yet, chapter 8, the title of chapter 8 was actually given to me by Edwina Brown. She said, a pivot will cause you to react when you're in pressured situations. I think that something like that, but it's written better in my book. Okay, so as we get ready to close, what message would you like to leave with people who are afraid to pivot into something different?
Mm. You know, and this is the message I tell myself even now. Um, you know, a lot of times as humans, we don't like change, right? We get comfortable in repetition and in these particular cycles because we work on a rhythm, right? That's why we have a heartbeat. There's a certain rhythm, and so anything that throws us out of rhythm, imagine your heart being thrown, it's scary,
Mm-hmm.
right? So a lot of times we don't want to pivot and make that change, but sometimes we're forced to.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of times there's nothing wrong with that lesson when you're forced to, but change is necessary. Um, it is inevitable and it is necessary. And sometimes, you know, we hear
Mm-hmm.
take that leap of faith and make that change. But I think that anything that is worth talking about 3, 5, 10, 15 years from now um, requires faith, requires change, it requires a pivot. Um, so just do it. I'm Nike in this situation. Just do it.
Just do
Do
it.
it. What the heck? You know, what the heck? Just you never know where life is taking you.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's pulling you. Sometimes you feel like you're driving, but oftentimes it's pulling you. But shoot, I would just say right now, I'm Nike. Nike slogan, if I can borrow it, just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it. Don't, you know, whatever idea you have, I think they say the richest people in the world are in the graveyard,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because these ideas, we're dying with these ideas, and we're not taking that leap of faith in implementing or creating these ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And who would have thought a small town girl, Edwina Brown, who is in love with sport, who played sport all of her life, coach, would ever own a cigar lounge? Not me. But when the opportunity fell in my lap
Mm-hmm.
and I felt like, and here's the thing, I was helping someone, right? And that's at my core. That's the essence of who I am, is to help, to give back. I went into it to help someone who was in financial distress
Mm-hmm.
come out, and I fell in love with it. And you can't tell me that this was not God's plan.
Mm-hmm.
You can't.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes doing something that is just or inhibition, right? It's natural for you,
Mm-hmm.
will direct your path and help you on that pivot.
I love it, man. That was some wisdom in that. I love it so much. So, let the navigators know how they can connect with you on social media.
So I'm all over social media. I can't hide, unfortunately. Instagram and Twitter. I am Coach underscore E underscore B. So my initials, Edwina Brown. Coach underscore E underscore B. That's Twitter and Instagram. On Facebook, it's Edwina B Ball Brown. Edwina B Ball Brown on Facebook. I also have a website, which is edwinabrown.com. That's pretty much, that's the main platforms that I use. I'm also on LinkedIn, Edwina Brown.
Okay.
Just my name, Edwina Brown.
And what if somebody wants to follow the Cigar Lounge page?
So Cigar Lounge is blowinsmokecigarlounge.com, and the blowin has no G, so it's BLOWIN, smokecigarlounge.com. We're also on Instagram as such, on Facebook as such, Blowin Smoke Cigar Lounge. And then our Twitter is Blowin Smoke 2155.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing with us and giving us a front seat and a real personal view of your life story. And I look forward to what you have coming up in the near future. I'm happy for your success. I celebrate you, and I'm just excited. So, navigators, thank you all for tuning in. And until next time, keep going. Bye bye.
Thank you.